All right. What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Monkeys with Malice. This is episode 5. And today I'm going to talk about inflation. So it's going to be a not a reading episode, but I'm just going to be talking about just current inflation and how inflation is going to affect us and how it is affecting and what inflation is. Okay. So basically, inflation is when the cost of living of something goes up, or when the value of your currency decreases and the cost of everyday items goes up. So the loss of value of your whatever currency you have due to an increase of devalue in that currency by printing too much, basically it's just by printing too much money and by taking too much money that there's no value behind it, but you're printing a lot of money and you're giving it away. So that's basically inflation, and that's what's been going on here in the States with stimulus checks, unemployment payments, which is really high. Just how all of these different, I guess, branches work and how they affect the economy and the everyday person. Okay, so first I wanted to tell you guys what the current inflation is. So I remember checking maybe last month, 2 months ago, what the inflation rate was, and the Treasury said that it was at 4.3%, right? Now it's at 5%. According to U.S. inflation calculator, it's at 5%. So that's going to affect in a ton of areas. Many other economists that aren't from the government, such as like Max Kaiser, believe that it's between, I think it's 20 and 40%, a lot higher than what they're saying. Because if they say the correct or like the true inflation, it'll affect every single country and it'll affect in dramatic ways that we have never felt before. So that's a fear of why of inflation, of hyperinflation, and that's basically what is happening. Okay, but this is an article by CNBC. It was written in May, and it's about how inflation will affect you. So it states, last month inflation accelerated. This was in May. Okay. Last month, inflation accelerated at its fastest pace in more than 12 years as the economic recovery kicked into gear, the Labor Department said on Wednesday. So basically, this inflation is all happening due to the government deciding, hey, we're going to close down. It's an artificial closure of the economy. Businesses were shut down. Essential businesses were stated which ones were essential and which ones weren't essential. So certain businesses had to shut down while others were able to stay open. And I think how much the trillionaires, the 1% went up in value, they doubled their wealth. Jeff Bezos is now worth $208 billion. That's ridiculous. But so the government shutting everything down, these lockdowns, opinion on what you want with lockdowns, whatever. I'm not talking about my opinion on lockdowns. I'm talking about how they affected the economy. And they affected the economy by people weren't able to go out to buy stuff. Factories were shut down. People weren't able to go work and produce, or like at not farms, but like milk factories. Farmers were able to milk the cows, but they couldn't send it to the factories where they would pasteurize it because it was locked down. Everything was locked down. So a ton of revenue was lost there. The economy was just shut down. And the U.S. took tons of damage. And that's why we did stimulus checks, because Trump saw that, hey, you know what? The people need money. People need to spend. We need to reinvest in the economy so that it can open back up, so that we aren't hit, so that our economy is not hit. And look at China. China's economy boomed because they opened everything back up and they locked people in their houses if they had coronavirus, but let everybody else go. There's stories of people of the police or I'm not sure if they're police or soldiers, but going up and like welding the doors shut. So yeah, China took drastic measures, but their economy was open and they were able, their GDP grew a crap ton because they were open during this time. And so with the stimulus checks, what's going on is under Trump, it was a huge decline. You can see it in stocks. It was a huge decline back in, I don't know, was it May, February, March? It was just super low. Everything was down. The DOW, was at its lowest point. But then everything started recovering. Everything was on an increase. And then Joe Biden became president. And guess what? Stimulus, unemployment benefits, payments. People are getting paid more to not work than they were to work. And so, since it was an artificially induced economic crash, it should have been the easiest recovery ever. Just open everything back up and everything will go back to normal. People will start purchasing again. But because of these basically UBI, universal basic income policies, we're going to be hit by hyper inflation. So why is that? Why are we going to get hit by inflation? Well, according to the USA.gov, many states are ending their COVID-related unemployment benefits. Okay, so these are unemployment benefits because of COVID. So the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 temporarily authorized an extensions of people already receiving unemployment benefits. So people were already receiving unemployment during coronavirus. Okay, that's understandable. But whose fault is that? That's because the government shut everything down. Automatic additional payments of $300 per week to everyone qualified for unemployment benefits. So they're receiving their unemployment, which I think is $16 an hour, maybe. It's around there. It's around $15 an hour. And then they're getting an additional $300 a week. They're getting paid a ton of money to not do anything at home. Time is the most valuable asset that anybody can have. And what happens when you're getting paid to not work, but you're getting paid a livable amount to not work, and more than most jobs pay, because the minimum wage is $7.25 at least here in Texas, but people are getting paid $16 plus $300 additional on top of that. So people are getting paid not to work, and of course, if you're getting paid $16 an hour to not work because you're in unemployment, well, of course you're gonna not work, right? What is the point of going to let's say Cane's, which they're hiring, and they're paying $12 an hour. Heck, they're paying $16 an hour. What are you gonna prefer, to stay at home and be paid $16 an hour plus $300 per week? Or would you rather go work your butt off 40 hours a week at Cane's, a fast food, dealing with miserable people and Karens and awful people? What would you rather? Of course, you're going to take unemployment. Even if you're paid like $20 an hour, you're going to say, okay, what's worth it? My time or money? Well, time. I'm free all the time and I'm getting paid to do nothing. Of course, I'm going to choose that. I'm not going to work. Why would I work for 20? It has to be like double what you get paid on unemployment. Maybe even more, because people, if you're getting paid a livable amount to not work, of course you're going to take that. Like it's common sense. These people who think UBI is a good idea, they misunderstand human nature. Human nature is lazy and we're complacent and we want comfort over everything. So if you're paid to not do anything, well, of course you're going to be content because you're getting paid not to do anything. But yeah, so due to that, people aren't working. Jobs are struggling. Joe Biden, I think, hit out of, out of like 1 million jobs that were open, he only got 200,000 people. So 800,000 jobs were left without people working. So that's going to affect the economy. And how does that affect the economy? Well, prices are going to go up. Because the supply is lower and the demand is high, price is going to go up because the supply is lower. It's simple supply and demand. If demand is up and supply is down, then cost is going to go up. But if supply is high and demand is low, price is going to drop because the supply is super high, but the demand is low, so nobody wants anything. Right? I think so. I think that's how it works. It should be how it works. If not, I'm dumb. But there was a balance. There was supply and demand. People wanted stuff, and there was a supply. People could work, and people wanted stuff. So the economy was fine. But now what's happening is supply is super low, but demand is super high. So for the little supply that there is, cost is going to go up. And what happens, let's say food. Okay, so I'm looking at the BLS.gov, which is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I'm looking at their statistics, seasonal adjusted charge changes from preceding month. So this is like CPI. And so back in November, right, 2020, the food was there was a 0% increase. But then in December, this was nearing the end of coronavirus inflation, or coronavirus and Trump's presidency. December, it went up to 0.3%, like increase in cost of food. Then in January, it went down to 1%. February hit 2%, March hit 1%, April hit 4%, May hit 4%. And so the unadjusted 12-month ended in May 2021. So in 2021, May, it went up at 2%. So you're seeing an increase in cost of items. You're seeing an increase in all of these services. Down here it says the food index increased 0.4% in May. The index for food at home increased 0.4%, the same increase as in April. However, while in April the index was broad-based, with all 6 major grocery store foods group indexes rising, the May increase was mostly due to index for meats, poultry, fish, eggs, which increased 1.3% over the month. We're seeing an increase of beef and chicken and pork because of also hacks. The United States grid is being hacked. We're being hacked by Russia. Colonial was hacked. By probably China as well. Colonial was hacked, and they were a oil company. And then JLB, I believe, that was a beef industry plant. They were also hacked, and that led to a ton of just, I don't know how many cows, but a ton of cattle was not able to be slaughtered. And so there's a decrease in supply. And so we saw an increase. Oil, the cost of fuels going up, gas has gone up, has gone up. How much? It's at the highest it's ever been in 8 years. Or I heard that. Who did I hear it from? I heard it from somebody, but they were saying how the gas has gone up the highest it's been in like 8 years or something like that. I'm probably wrong. But you can see gas is going up. I remember before Joe Biden became president and he closed the pipeline, gas $1.90, right? $1.80, $1.90. It was super cheap. And now it's at $2.60, $2.70. It's absurd. And in California, I think it's like $5. I don't know. But this affects you. And so what happens if you can't afford gas, right? What happens if you have a job, a decent paying job, and you can't afford gas? Well, you're going to ask for a raise. And let's say the company can't afford a raise. So they're going to raise prices because they can't afford a raise. And then they give you a raise because they increase prices of stuff, but people are going to stop going, which means because things are too expensive, people are going to stop eating there. So the company doesn't have money, and so they're going to have to let people off. And what happens when they let people off? Well, the quality of the company or the quality of the food or of the environment is going to go down, which is going to lead to less people going because they see that it sucks. So that's what you call hyperinflation. That's going to happen. My prediction is that's going to happen, and it's happening right now. Here in Texas, thankfully, things are better. The state government has dealt with it very well, and they've done a very good job, I believe. But you see in other states, there's signs outside of McDonald's saying like, "Oh, due to worker shortages, food is going to take longer than normal." It's bad. The situation is going to get bad. The monthly inflation index on food prices increased 0.4% in May. So it's going to hit, and it's going to hit hard because of all the printing. If you look at a stat, if you look up a money printing or US dollar printing, you can see that just a US $9 trillion story. $9 trillion. 22% of circulating US dollars were printed in 2020. So we're printing money basically without seeing a consequence, but we're going to be hit by a mad consequence. We're going to be hit by mad inflation. And I'm not excited because it's going to be painful to pay $5 in gas, $4 in gas, because that's expensive. That is expensive. And yeah, I'm not excited. Excuse me. So it's not going to be fun. Here it says by LandsbergBennett.com how inflation affects me. Over long-term, inflation erodes the purchasing power of your income and wealth. This means that even as you save and invest, your accumulating wealth buys less and less, just as the mere passage of time and those who put off saving and investing impacted more and more. Many economists believe that the economy will be hit super hard in October and September. That's when we're going to start to feel prices are going to skyrocket. Because prices are slowly going up. Like I've seen slowly going up with beef. Chicken, it's still for me relatively the same price, $10 to $15 maybe. But like steaks, they are high, $17, $20, $30 for just little pieces. Pork is, I used to buy pork like 6 pork chops for $8 or something like that. Now it's probably $12. So it's going up a little bit, or maybe because I got heavier ones. But items are going up in price, and it's not fun to have to pay more for your everyday items. But yeah, so let's see here. So I'm reading this. This is from MarketWatch. This is an article from MarketWatch. Throughout 2019 and early 2020, the percentage increase was around 1%, as the numbers show. The pandemic effect. COVID-19 has put new snags and costs into the supply chain and in bad need for fixes, he explained. For example, worker shortages and social distancing rules push up labor costs in the meatpacking industry, he said. Rising gas prices make trucking a more expensive endeavor, and the logistics are further complicated by more retiring truckers. Meanwhile, Chinese demand for corn and soybeans drive up those prices, he said. On top of the new customer expectations about shopping during the pandemic, all those plexiglass drivers, hand sanitizers, sanitation stations, and cleaning supplies to wipe down scanning equipment and cards cost money. Somebody's got to pay for it. Food manufacturers are all in the same boat. That makes it easier for companies to push through the customers. The stimulus effect. Yes, there are supply chain challenges and added costs to surmount those challenges, said Greg Portell, lead partner in global consumer practice at Kearney. But there's also a demand on the side, he said, boosted by government spending for measures like stimulus checks. You've got actual dollars going into people's pockets. A cost rise from producers and supply chain. Our members are following the same prices, structures, and policies that they always have, and they strive to hold off the increasing prices for as long as possible. So companies are trying to not have the prices go up, but they're getting affected by the actual cost of prices going up, but they're trying to keep the cost low. So this is an important part. This says, will the prices stay high? ? The next 12 to 18 months are going to be the Wild West, said Lampart, because we don't know what the future holds. For example, grocery stores, supermarkets, and suppliers need to figure out how they can entice shoppers with promotions, but that takes months of planning and certainty. Increasing prices are not the new normal. Prices should go down after suppliers, along with the food industry, invest in better, more certain ways to get foods on their shelves. Ernie Tedeschi, a member of President Joe Biden's Council for Economic Advisors, wrote in April that across the board, they expected measured inflations to increase somewhat over the next several months. Well, of course inflation is going to up. You printed 22% of... yeah. So it's just basically the economy is going to be hit. Savings, the value of your savings is going to go down. I have savings, but I have more money in cryptocurrencies. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't blame me if you lose money, but I've invested in cryptos. Why? Because they're decentralized. Their value comes from, their value is not the dollar, because the dollar is going to lose its value and just losing a ton of its value. And so cryptos is a smart bet. And so this is an example of inflation. And this is from the US inflation calculator. So if you look at the average family savings, right? The average, let me find the right calculator. Oh, no, it's the US Tech calculator. So you just look up the USStatClock.com. And if you look at savings per family, right? It's on 2021, savings per family. It says 49,586. That's gone up. I remember checking it last month and it was at 36,000. So it's gone up. That's inflation making it go up. And so, of course, it's being skewed a lot by this 1%, the 1% of, or the high middle class, and then just 1% who have trillions and billions and millions of dollars. And so that's going to make the savings go up. So I'd put it around $20,000 to $30,000 in savings per family. Okay, now if you change the time and change the machine to show 2025, average savings per family is at $126,000. You really think people are going to have $126,000 in their bank account saved up? That's inflation. That's a perfect example of inflation. And so if you take, for example, Bitcoin right now is at 35,000, averaging 35, 32,000. Well, due to inflation, it's a safe bet that Bitcoin will hit 126,000 by 2025. Do people think it's going to hit 200,000 this year? Yes. I don't know about that. I think it has a lot of potential, and more people are seeing potential. It's being messed up by Elon Musk and by the Chinese government, but it's got a lot of potential. And so I've invested a big chunk of my money into cryptocurrencies because it's decentralized and it's away from the dollar, because the dollar is going to lose a ton of its value. But this is my rant on inflation. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed. Like, share, follow my Instagram at monkeyswithmouths.podcast. This is also on Spotify. It's on Anchor. I think Anchor publishes it on like Google Podcasts. Basically all your podcast streaming sites, I think. But yeah, let me know what you think, and have a wonderful rest of the day. And invest in Bitcoin, but don't blame me. I'm not a financial advisor, but invest in Bitcoin. That's what I say. That's what